What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the ALLiN Podcast. As always, brought to you by our sponsors, Fit Aid, Cured Nutrition, and IN3 Formulations. Today, we have my good friend Brad Jensen on the podcast. My partner in crime and really goofy shit online, but most importantly, somebody that has been through a hell of a journey, from drug addiction to alcohol abuse, in and out of jail 17 or 18 times, to ultimately now creating what is over a 7-figure business and leading literally thousands of people through their health and fitness journey. His own personal journey is detailed in this podcast, but more importantly, I believe you should grab a pen and grab paper, because we're going to point out inside this podcast exactly how his journey relates to yours, whether you're seeking success inside of your own just personal validity, whether you're seeking success inside of your own personal nutrition, or whether you're seeking success inside of your business. The journey remains the same, and we point that out several times over. And it sounds crazy to bring parallels from a drug addiction to business success, but pay attention the next hour or so, because it's there. All the keys to success are there, and this is probably one of the most powerful episodes I've ever recorded. So grab pen and paper, take some notes, enjoy, and we will talk to you next week. I'm here with nutrition coach, used car salesman, Brad Jensen. Dude, what's going on?
What's going on, man?
Fluffy pillow Saturday morning, so that's what's going on.
Yes, it's a fluffy pillow type of morning in Miami.
Yeah, so for people that are listening to the podcast and not seeing this on YouTube, can you please explain to them why we said that?
Yeah, there's this beautiful fluffy pillow in our villa here in South Beach. It's very South Beach-esque, and being the guy I am, I thought it would be a comfy thing to straddle under my arm here.
So a lot of times we record these podcasts, and when we do them in person, we try to make it pretty professional. We'll sit at a table, and we'll put headphones on and have our microphones. And so just to set the stage for how completely professional we are right now, we're sitting together on a couch, both of us with our feet up on a shared ottoman, a fluffy pillow between us, and sitting back as if we're super comfortable together. So yeah, that's Saturday morning in Miami.
Yeah, well, it's a Saturday morning with you in Miami.
This should be a good podcast.
It should be.
Okay. Okay. First word that comes to your mind when I say the next word. Ready? Mastermind.
Broke.
Seriously?
Scam.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's a buzzword that I feel like, man, people are losing money out there. People investing in these things that are getting no return on their money. I've hated that. I'm part of full transparency. I'm part of Jason's mastermind. This is my. Okay, but that's not how I feel about his. And I said to him,
I was like, oh man, here we go. We're recording a podcast, and I'm gonna get blasted.
Yeah. I said, dude, what you do isn't really a mastermind. Like, people in other masterminds aren't spending countless hours business coaching during the month too. Sure. And I know some guys who I think they're addicted to investing in different masterminds. They're the same guys that go to every single goddamn Tony Robbins seminar when he does the same shit. You're gonna walk on fire again, and it's great. But they're the same guys that continually do that, and I think these guys prey on them.
Well, I think, you're definitely right about that statement. They're definitely preying on them, but I think that a lot of the people, and this is where I think people that are listening to the podcast can really resonate, is they see these mastermind worlds, or they see any events, like live events, or they see digital downloadable books or courses, and they believe that that's the solution, right? And they believe that the solution is either investing your money to join this group. And it's just like nutrition coaching clients that bounce from coach to coach and never see results. They believe the investment is the solution, not the work that follows the investment. And so I try to tell clients all the time, the money that you pay, be it to work with me on nutrition or work with us on business or invest in any of the million coaches out there, that's your gateway to entry. That's it, right? That's your ticket to play the game. Now you gotta fucking be good at playing the game.
Right.
And if you're trying to create physical results, or if you're trying to perform better or live longer or whatever it might be, you got to have your shit together. But I also believe by you investing in a coach, that coach better know how to help you play the game, right? I mean, that's why you brought them in.
Yeah.
So it's a really weird dichotomy that we live in, and it seems probably very completely off topic for us to start the podcast that way, but that's what we talked about this morning, walking to Starbucks, and you're gonna see us go in on it big in 2019, because I'm personally sick of the word mastermind in the mastermind world. I'm sick of seeing people having their money taken from them, and it really kind of brings us to why we're here today talking about nutrition coaching. You're somebody I really respect in this space, and we've only known each other for 3-4 months, right? And it's I really respect what you and your company are doing, because there's a lot of people in this space that are willing to take money from clients, that want to change, that are broken, they're that person that's investing money, and they're not creating results, and you guys are 100% results driven. So tell us a little bit more about what you do, and then I kind of want to get into your background.
Well, thanks, man. And going back to your point, it was funny, me and Jason, I've gravitated towards him for a long time because I just liked that he told the fucking truth. And that seems like a big deal. Like, that seems like something that would be a no-brainer.
Sure.
But it's not. When it comes to nutrition, when it comes to life. And before I even could finish the words, hey man, if I give you some input, like, I think you should change the word. And I couldn't even get him out. I was going to say the word mastermind. And you said, oh, we're already fucking on it, dude. Because this is not a mastermind.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I think, well, what we're doing here in Miami, this is our elite group, and there's 7 of us, and I personally believe there's never been anything like this even attempted. And the reason is it's expensive. Like, it was very expensive for us to come here. For us to put up 7 people, I mean, effectively there's 10 people here because me, Chas, and Teddy are here as well. And, for us to put up 10 people, for us to feed 10 people, and to come here and to literally work sun up to sundown. Like, people don't understand. We were up at 5:45 this morning.
Yeah.
We didn't go to bed last night after work until close to 11 p.m. And so we're working the whole time. People think like, oh, you're in South Beach, you're having a good time. Like, not how it is, right? But so people don't want to put that in, and that's okay. Like, again, I'm not here to put anybody down. I just am, my mission is to make sure that anytime someone invests, that they're getting the value they deserve, period. Be it nutrition, be it business, be it mastermind, be it whatever, right? If you're going to invest in yourself, you should get what you fucking deserve, period, the end. But dude, like, fuck the mastermind talk. Like, tell us about Key Nutrition, man. Like, what is Key Nutrition? How did Key Nutrition come about?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, I own a company called Key Nutrition. It's located in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we've it came about simply. If I'm being honest, it came about as it was a dream I always had, but I was forced into a position of extreme fear where I was working in a different nutrition coaching company. I've been doing this since 2006, and it was always one of those dreams that, like, one day I'm going to start my own place. And there were some factors going on in my life at the time that I wasn't able to actually buy all in on me and, like, believe in myself. But to be honest, how it came about is the place I was working at prior, the owner there started experiencing a lot of personal issues, and it just was I was on an uphill climb in a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And I was uphill. I was going uphill. I was getting more clients. I was helping more people. I was changing more lives. But God, it was a grind to get there because the place was going down. So
yeah, that's rough, man. What brought you to nutrition coaching? Because I always say everyone has a story, and your story, I happen to know, is completely different than most. So how did you even get into nutrition coaching, and what was life like before that? Because There's some things that obviously people will learn from you.
Yeah, I mean, so taking it back, like what initially even got me into my passion for health and fitness was, growing up as, you hit that chubby kind of awkward phase, and, I was teased by my friends, but I was made fun of. This is about 13, 14 years old, and I was the kid who wore the black T-shirt to the pool because it was 100 fucking degrees in Utah, and it sucked, and I bred a lot of insecurity about who I was as a person, and I didn't really know what that was spiraling into. I just knew I didn't like who I was, and so that's actually what got me into it. Was I would take my bike down to Barnes & Noble, and this is before the days of, it would have been so much easier today. It's like GOOGLE. But maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe it would have fucked me up more, man.
Honestly, yeah. I mean,
what I mean?
That's a great debate, because I think back in, I don't
this
know.
Is 97.
Yeah, like 97, 98, right? Like your lack of access is a gift, I think. I think right now the confusion that's in the space is one of the biggest paralyzers of success. So it's really interesting. I mean, we could debate that all day, because the access to information obviously helps, but the access to an abundance of information, I think, hurts.
This is the first time I'd actually thought that shift.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
And I realized I had to take my goddamn bike there every day, and I
crazy.
didn't have the money to buy the books.
So you just 13, went there and read them?
So I'd go there and read after school.
That's crazy.
But now looking back, I had to work for it. I had to take my bike there. If you know anything about me and my cardio, it has not changed. If you see me running, there's a goddamn bear behind me or a police. But
except for this morning when you ran through the sprinklers.
Yeah. Teddy bet me. So I would go there, and it was the first thing in my life I'd ever been passionate about. I started picking up his books, and I was a very average or below average student, not because I couldn't, but because I just didn't find it interesting. When I popped open those books, and the Muscle and Fitness and the Encyclopedia Bodybuilding by Arnold, and I was just getting my hands on anything I could. I remember it was the first time I'd ever felt passionate about anything in my whole entire life. So I started to apply all that stuff. And over the course of a couple years, as an early high school kid, I saw my body change. I mean, I was taking tuna fish and brown rice and salsa to school as like a sophomore. I didn't know what I was doing. I just was following what the bodybuilders were doing, because why would they lie to me?
Of course.
Yeah.
Why would Muscle and Fitness lie?
Right. I did hammer curls 4 sets of 12. I did not end up with brachialis muscles like, Lee Haney. So but man, that's where I got my love for it, honestly, and I realized that's what I'm going to do the rest of my life, like, no matter what. So.
And was it the nutrition that brought you in, or was it the training? Like, what sucked you in?
The nutrition actually at first, which is, because I was overweight, I just wanted to fit in better. And then when I started to lose some lbs is when I started hitting up the gym. Okay. And then I fell in love with the gym. So as a junior in high school, I was a jacked kid. The football coach wanted me to play football. I didn't want to play football. Like, I just wanted to bodybuild. Like, that's crazy. But I was so insecure.
So you found it early. I mean, like, that's relatively early for most people, and especially commitment to nutrition. I mean, I had a buddy in high school, Jeff Schuster. Shout out to him if he ever hears this. But, like, the dude was like a physical fucking specimen in high school. Like, I remember back, and I'm like, and maybe it's just because I was like a skinny fat piece of shit, but like, I remember back and being like, this motherfucker, he's got to be on steroids, right? Like, I mean, probably, it was probably like my convoluted mind, like looking back, man, he probably wasn't even that big, right? But like, we always like romanticize that shit. And so I was like, this guy's got to fucking be taking some drugs or something, like, and he would tell me about his lifts, and like, he probably told me he benched like 135, but I thought it was like 1,000 pounds, right? But like, it blew my mind how committed he was, right? And I envied that back then, and I was a lazy piece of shit, and I played golf. But it's crazy to me that you found it at this young age. But then I feel like I would love to be like, well, this really happy story of, well, Brad finds fitness and Brad overcomes insecurity and Brad builds business. That's not the truth. Like, there were some dark years that followed.
Oh, about a dark decade.
And like, tell everybody about that, because to me, this is crazy, and this is really, I really believe this is why you are who you are, and why there's so much empathy, and why you create the level of success that you do. I think that was actually a gift, but like, tell everybody kind of what happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. So along that time, keep in mind, I found this love for fitness, love for nutrition. Like, I was hooked. But to be honest, as a 16-year-old kid, it wasn't coming from a place of like, I really care about my blood work. Like, I just want to it was insecurity.
100%.
Rampant insecurity. And I still just felt this disconnect. Like, I wanted to fit in. And all my buddies were going out partying. And by partying, I mean, they were doing what high school kids do. They were going out, they were drinking, having a good time. Do high school kids do that? I mean, it was pretty normal for me.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I was like a pretty straight edge kid. Actually, I don't think they told the story publicly. I was a pretty straight edge kid, and then my high school. So like, I didn't even have a girlfriend until my senior year, because I was like a busted looking, like, skinny fat kid with like gap teeth, because I have fake teeth now. And like,
that's why they're so perfect.
Yeah, I have veneers. So I was like a busted kid with like gap teeth, and no girls liked me. But I finally, like, there was this smoking hot girl, in some way she like dated me, and then like, we broke up the week before prom. And so at prom, like, I went and like fucking ended up at some after party, and there was Captain Morgan there, and so I was like, oh, I'll try this and it'll be fun. 3 shots later, I'm completely fucked. Like, literally 3 shots, I'm like, the room is spinning. I'm taking a piss. So, like, I vividly remember this. Like, I'm taking a piss, and like the whole bathroom's spinning, and I'm like, oh man, I'm drunk. Like, thinking it was hilarious. And then, like, I don't know, shortly after that, it was like April 20th, and so my buddies were like, hey, it's 420, like, it means you gotta smoke. And so I tried pot for the first time, and then I found myself getting high before school, and like, so I like literally like created this shift, right? Like, I went from like super straight edge kid to like, oh, I'm drinking and smoking now. But I guess I was late to the party because all my friends have been doing it for fucking 2 years.
Right.
So I think it's pretty commonplace for high school kids to be partying.
I did not know that story.
No, never been told. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, so they weren't out partying. Here's the deal, though. I was so hooked on this fitness thing that I had done so much research as a senior. I knew what alcohol did to my results, and I was all about my gains, man. I mean, I was like Abercrombie t-shirt wearing, like shell necklace, like throwing.
Wait, hold on. Was that a shot at my fucking Instagram picture?
No. Same person. We're like, so a poofy yellow jacket, like, you name it.
The big old North Face jacket back in the day.
Right. Yeah. Like, he'd wear the hat crooked,
of course,
off the side.
Yeah.
But I knew what alcohol would do to my results, so I chose not to drink. But God, I wanted to do something, so I'd go to these parties, and I was probably 18 years old, 17, and a kid pulled out some painkillers, some hydrocodone, and I said, what are those? And he said, oh, they're painkillers. I said, I'm not in any pain. He said, no worries, they'll fuck you up. And I was like, perfect, give them to me. So I put them in my hand, and I'll never forget it. I never forget where I was, too. I took a couple of them, not even thinking, like, I wonder what these are going to do to me. Kind of about the same thing when all of a sudden there was a need for you to drink. You just did it.
Right.
And, like,
yeah.
I remember about an hour and a half later, the feeling hit me, and I loved it. And I said, that's what I want to do the rest of my life. I'm going to find a way to manage this into my life. I loved the way I felt. And the reality is looking back, I hated who I was so bad that, like, the disconnect of that was, and I loved it. That's the plain, simple truth. And so that's what I chased. By the time I started strategically positioning myself to hang out with older guys who were doing bigger things than my high school friends, who had more connections, who had more drugs, and that kind of like little hustler entrepreneurship, like, I'm grateful for. I saw it even, like, I I was hustling my way to get in with cooler, bigger, and better people, just like I am today. That's why I'm sitting on the fucking couch with you, right?
I just thought it was because you wanted to cuddle with me with fluffy pillows, but...
I mean, then they came in, and we had some people come in, it was weird.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward now.
You know what, man, but like, it took off from there, and as a senior in high school, we started taking my Pontiac Sunfire at the time down to Tijuana, Mexico, which isn't too far from Salt Lake City, Utah, and we would stop the door panels.
When you say not too far, like, people are thinking an hour, like, we're talking like 7-8 hours, right?
Oh, I think it was more like 12.
Yeah, okay. So let's just put not too far into
okay. And we would take the door panels off, and we would stuff that full of everything and anything from the pharmacy.
Wow.
Pills, and I was a kid. Like, I didn't really realize.
How old are we talking?
I was a senior in high school, so
17, 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming back, and then I began my first entrepreneurial journey, which was selling pills to other high school kids. Keep in mind, this whole time, like, I was so naive to, like, the fact that I was committing multiple federal felonies, like going across state lines.
Yeah, you didn't even think about that.
No.
Literally, it was just a pursuit for a high.
Yeah, pursuit for a high. And
then to make money.
And some notoriety, yeah.
So what at that time was more important to you? Like, I don't know, we've never discussed what the financial ramifications were. I have to assume selling drugs, you made some money. But were you in it because you wanted to make money? Or were you secretly loving the fact that people were like, oh, Brad's a hookup? Like,
oh, yeah.
That people, like, loved you for this?
Yeah.
Like, what was more important to you? Like, what went through your head?
Oh, I liked the notoriety. I liked being the man. And to be quite frank, I just liked doing the drugs, the pills, the muscle relaxers. I liked doing it all. And I knew that if I continued to make, bi-monthly trips down there, that I didn't have to pay for any of them. And, I didn't have a job.
Right.
My job was to go to the gym, so I told people, right? And I'll never forget it. It was Memorial weekend of my senior year of high school, and I ended up going to Lake Havasu with these older guys I linked up with. Long story short, we got down there, and I realized I'd forgot all my pills when we pulled into the hotel, and I was bummed out. I was like, dang it, all right, well, I guess I'll drink this weekend. And I was jacked. I was still hitting the gym. Like,
right.
I didn't look like a drug addict. In fact, I didn't for a long time, and that was probably my greatest curse. So I got down there, didn't have any of them, and the next day I started to feel sick. Keep in mind, I'd been using every day for 6 months. Never had ran out. Okay. I never ran out. I never
you had built an endless supply.
Yeah. I started to get sick. And at this point, I was pretty heavily addicted to Oxycontin.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know I was addicted, though. That's the thing.
You just thought it was part of life.
Yeah. I never went a day without it, so I didn't know. I was still so naive to the fact of what these were actually doing. And I woke up sick the next day, and I told these guys, hey, I think I got the flu. And they were like, nah, man, you forgot your pills. You're withdrawing. I said, what? And they said, yeah, you physically get sick when you don't have them. I said, no, I haven't been used long enough for that. About 6 hours later, I was puking off the balcony, shaking, shivering. I had anxiety. And I said, I think you guys are right. And this guy said, kid, come in this room. And he pulled me in there, and he looked at me, and he said, you want to feel better? And I said, yeah. He pulled out a syringe full of heroin. And I looked at him and I said, oh man. So I had these lines drawn in the sand, like, I'm not crossing that one. And I'd heard about heroin, and heroin was gross. I came from a good family, middle to upper class. And I said, oh no, I can't do that, man. And he said, okay. I said, well, wait, will it make me feel better? And he said, yeah. So I grabbed it, and I shot up heroin in 2003, and that it's still sometimes hard for me to, like, really be transparent and honest about what it was like for me. Like, it wasn't, and like I thank you for that, because it finally opened up. Like, my story is who I am. Like, sure. I don't have to be like, oh, I used some drugs. No, like, I shot heroin as an 18-year-old kid, and most people don't start out that way. Like I started that way.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and I'll never forget this guy who's actually dead now. He said, your life's never going to be the same, kid. And like how true that statement is. Like I didn't really realize. I just remember when he said it.
That's a pivotal moment.
It gave me this eerie feeling because I knew he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
That there was a part of me that was, and so I chased that, man, for the next decade from 2000.
So I mean, just to put it in perspective, clearly, when you shot the heroin, he said your life's never going to be the same. You went on a high, right, from heroin, and you loved it.
Yeah, but I did, but not as much. It really, not as much as I loved the other drugs that I could control a little better.
Okay.
It was a little more.
So then, what sent you into chasing the heroin?
Well, at that point, a lot of fear was installed that I did have this addiction that they talked about.
Got it. To the pills.
Yeah, just to opiate pain, the opiates in general.
Got
so
it.
Heroin's kind of like the top of that mountain or the bottom of it, whichever way you want to look at it. Like when you finally get to that point, because it's cheap, it's dirty, you can use less and get you more high, and it's easier to get, unfortunately.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I literally no experience there, so it's like I don't, I can't pretend to understand in any way like where that goes. But so you go as an 18-year-old, you have your first shot of heroin, and it sends you into this place where you're effectively chasing painkillers and heroin for quite some time.
Yeah.
Right? And where does that lead you? Because we're here today doing something different, and I know there's a lot more that ended up happening. So where does that take you next?
So this is, I graduated high school in 2003, so this is the end of 2003. Shortly after that, by 2005, well, I guess let me back up a little. I graduated high school. Before I graduated high school, I got a job, personal training at Ballet Total Fitness.
Okay.
And so...
And were you still getting high while you were...
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I was. In fact, but I hadn't... after that weekend, it changed a little. I could no longer control because I didn't know how much I was getting of what.
Right.
It'd be like you trying to control your results by being like, well, we don't really know the macros on any of that. We're just going to guess based off like this weird bar. Like we're looking at it. There's no wrapper. That maybe it has 200 to 400 calories. That's like, that's exactly. It was just like, is this a lot or a little? Let's try it.
Yeah.
So it sent me into. I was fucked up, and the sad part is, man, I was going in and I was personal training people. And I was doing shots of cocaine and heroin in the car before I went. I started mixing cocaine with it because I realized I needed to stay awake. It seemed like a very logical idea at the time.
Of course. Everybody thinks that.
My dealer was like, oh, you need some coke too. And I said, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what you need. That was the missing link.
That's what I thought. I thought I had shored it up. Turns out when you shoot them together, you're not so functional. So... But you know what's crazy is I look back, I would go in and I'd go work out, and after doing it, and now I'm getting so goddamn old, I'd have like a cardiac arrest, I think, going in there trying to bench after doing that.
You almost went into cardiac arrest doing arms yesterday. So.
Yeah, just walking to Starbucks this morning, I'm a little tired.
Yeah, it happens.
It stretches.
So
by 2005, I ended up in my first inpatient rehab. I talked to my parents and I said, hey, I got to go to rehab. Keep in mind, I did not look like a drug addict. Like, I want to emphasize this. Like, I didn't look like one. I was jacked. I knew where to shoot it so people couldn't see my tracks. And they said, for what? And I said, well, I've been doing heroin. And I remember my mom dropped the phone and I heard it hit the ground. And I said, hello? She picked it back up. She goes, oh my gosh, are you serious? I felt like I was going to faint. And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. They were floored. They had no idea. And so they sent me to my first inpatient rehab in 2005. And I went there with a strong motive to stop doing heroin. Not to, I didn't think I had a problem with anything else. Like, right. I didn't, I was 21.
Sure.
I was like, I just need to quit this and my life will be okay. And for some people that's the case, but for me it just wasn't. Keep in mind, like, the whole reason I was using in the first place is because I had a pit the size of this earth in my gut about who I was as a fucking human being.
But you didn't know it at the time.
No, like I didn't know that I was filling like this unfillable hole.
Right. And
so they sent me to this nice rehab. I met a chick in there. I thought it would be great to have her as my girlfriend. It seemed like a logical decision. And at day 44, because it was a 6-week deal, I snuck out the window. Keep in mind, you could leave this place, but it was not a locked facility. Like, you could walk out the front door.
Right.
But I snuck out the window with her, like we were like running, But I look back and like, that was how I lived my life, was just short of any expectations where people might actually expect me to have my shit together. I would leave. I would bail. And it was such a common theme in my life.
So anytime you had to take ownership, you were out.
Yeah, or if people, God forbid, like actually started going, wow, you're doing good, or like I was supposed to graduate that next day, and so
effectively, like, you were this person that was continuously seeking significance. You're this person that was massively afraid of success, and you did anything you could in your life, knowingly or unknowingly, to create self-sabotage.
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting, because we just had this whole conversation as it pertains to heroin, opiate use, alcohol abuse, and going to drug rehab. Yet, if we remove that whole conversation and we said those 3 traits, we're literally speaking to virtually every person on the face of this earth. We're literally speaking to every person that is seeking results on any level. And the truth is, and I said this on an Instagram live the other day, is people that are searching for results, that are chasing results, that are trying thing after thing, they're seeking significance. And that's why they're failing. They're failing not because the tactic is not working, not because the coach doesn't know what they're doing, not because the program was not well designed, but because they're literally in it to create significance. And all of a sudden you start seeing some level of results, right? But the level of results doesn't bring you the significance you thought you wanted. And so, well, fuck it. Why do I care? Why do these results even fucking matter? If I'm not significant and I don't have prominence, why the fuck am I even doing it? And so you fucking piss on it. And you go back into your hole. And then you think, okay, it's time to get significant again. Right? And you go back into your hole because the hole brought you significance. The drugs brought you significance. You were the cool guy. You were dealing. You're doing it with other, not to use this word negatively, but degenerates, right? Like, you're literally doing it at that time. And so you're the king of the fucking shitheads. You're literally, at that moment, you're king of the fucking shitheads.
Yeah.
But being king of something is better than fucking low man on the totem pole and something else.
Right.
So king of the shitheads it was, and you kept returning there, right? Yeah. So how ultimately did you overcome this, and how do we end up in this position where you're now an influencer in health and fitness?
Yeah, that was powerful, man. I felt that when you were saying that. I was massively afraid of any kind of success, and I see that a lot of my clients too. I'm glad you made that parallel to that. It continued. I would try just drinking, and then I thought maybe drinking was never really my problem. See, I identify as like a recovered alcoholic today too, but every time I would drink, eventually it would lead me back to the drugs, and it was just insanity, man. I eventually lost. I got into nutrition coaching in 2006, and I said, this is what's going to be, like, the end of 2006, this is what's going to be that keeps me out of this game. Like, it's this job. But I hadn't fixed fucking me yet.
But at what point did you identify that you needed to be out of this game? Because in my head this whole time you're talking, I'm drawing parallels between people that are overweight and frustrated and an addict. And people are like, oh, there's no way that's the same. But the journey is the same. Like, the addiction is completely different, but the journey is the exact same. And really our goal as coaches, and what I've learned in like 15 years of doing this, is when you can get the person to stop the broken journey and begin the journey that will ultimately yield the success, like, that's when you actually start winning. And I believe it only comes through awareness, right? Which is why, like, one of my first steps with all my clients is creating that awareness. And I came on your podcast recently, and I talked about context being king, and really creating context for an individual. Why does this fucking matter? Where is this in your life at the moment, right? And those questions are important. Why did you have to fucking get out of this, man? Because a lot of people, like, we just walked down the street in Miami, and there's fucking people, clearly, that were probably on drugs last night. They're not ready to get out of it. Why was it different for you?
Right. No, that's great. Great segue, man. It had to get worse before it got better. And as you were talking, it made me think that I would go to these rehabs. I would fucking spend my parents. They refinanced their house last time. Little to my knowledge, I would get beaten up out there because I became not the man. I became a junkie. And I was a full-blown junkie. I lived in my car. My then car got repossessed, so they fucking took my house and my car. Apparently you have to make payments on these things, and I'm calling it's ridiculous. Payments and insurance, like none of that I was doing. So I had to get worse before it got better, and my parents refinanced their house, sent me to another top, like, bougie rehab. I'm sitting in there with a famous movie star. I won't say her name, but...
Don't say it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like, I'm so glad that my parents did this for me. But then they kept talking about this work you have to do. And, like, after you get out, like, that's when the real work begins. And I wanted a quick fix, just like so many of my clients do with a diet. I wanted the quick fix. I wanted to pay. I didn't pay shit. My parents paid a lot. But like, that's enough. That should work. I didn't want to do the work once I got out.
And so this is like, so I said I was drawing parallels in my head, and again, not to draw parallels between drugs and food, because I don't want to say that's appropriate in any way, but I want people to understand the mindset that's happening, right? You literally just stated that you're continuing to search for quick fix after quick fix, and that you are willing to invest money, but you are not willing to invest time and effort. And exactly what we were talking about before we came on this podcast, exactly what we were talking about at the very beginning, where we talked about the money you spend to hire a coach is only your ticket to play the game. And there's so many people that are willing to cross that barrier. They're willing to invest their resources, but they're not willing to invest themselves. And it has to be a self-investment. Fuck your resources. I don't give a fuck how fucking rich you are. Your money means jack shit if you're not willing to commit to the process and make the change. And so people are out there buying program after program and coach after coach and going to event after event and blaming program after program and blaming event after event and coach after coach. And motherfucker, you might be piss poor broke because all of the money you've invested at this moment. And then you look in the mirror and you're like, I was the one that was broken the whole time.
Right.
And so I said one time, I don't fix diets, I fix people. And so I think as we bring this full circle, you became fixed. What was the moment that fixed you? That said, Brad Jensen is a human being. Brad Jensen can create success. And most importantly, Brad Jensen can pay it forward. What was that moment in your life?
You know, at the very tail end of my using, it got really bad. My parents finally got smart and they cut me off, and they gave me tough love. And I was homeless essentially, but I never slept on the streets because I was very resourceful, and that resourcefulness has paid off today for me. But I went to my grandfather's funeral, November 19th of 2012, and I went up there, and I was about 45 pounds less than I am now. Jet black hair, I owned one pair of clothes. I could no longer fool myself that somehow, like, my nickname on the streets was Pretty Boy with all these white supremacists.
You look like Pauly D.
Yeah, I thrived off it. I was like, yeah, Pretty Boy in the house. Like, it wasn't a very tough street name. Like, some of these guys had names like Psycho and like Loco Crazy Dude, and like they were like Pretty Boy, and I'm like, can I get a new street name? But it's not very tough. But I could no longer fool myself. Like, I wasn't being called pretty boy anymore. I was a junkie.
Yeah.
I looked like a junkie. I acted like
it caught up to you.
And I couldn't fool myself anymore, so I went to this funeral, and I got done carrying my grandfather's casket, and, you know, everyone else was crying. I couldn't feel anything anymore. I was just a shell of a human. And I finally, like, fucking got hit with the truth. And it became very, very real to me that if I didn't change, that people end up in 3 places that are addicted to heroin. Jails, institution, or they die, or they get better, so forth. And, you know, I got dropped off that night by my brother, and he was like, dude, you got to pull it together. Like, it's kind of a disgrace having you up there. And I needed somebody to tell me this truth. Like, it was a disgrace having you at our own grandfather's funeral. Like, everyone's looking at you thinking, what in the fuck is the matter with him? And that was the night my life changed. I got pulled over on the freeway. I met some guy in my parking lot of my house, which was also a crackhead hotel, just for the record. And I got on the freeway, and but I just knew like something was going to change. My grandfather, I think, was looking out for me. And long story short, we got pulled over, and I was driving this guy's car, and he looked at me and he said, oh, by the way, this car is stolen. Can you like run it? Like the cop lights turned on. I was like, well, I almost hit the guy because I was texting the cop, and he pulled me over, and this kid said, hey man, this car's stolen. He's like, dude, I don't know what to do, and he's shaking. And I had this peace come over me. I said, bud, this is my time to stop. Like, they'll take me to jail and I'll dry out. And the cop came up and he said, you have license, registration? And said, in fact, I don't have a license. This car is apparently stolen, so I think I need to go to jail. And he said, hold on here. And he goes back to the car, and he comes back and he says, all right, you're right. This car is stolen. You have no license. You're coming to jail. And so I went to jail, and keep in mind, Jason, that wasn't my first time. Like, I had 17 bookings in and out of the county jail from about 2006 to 2011. And I sat in the back of the cop car, and I told him, I said, he said, you really excited to go to jail? I said, yeah, I am. I said, I'm done, man. He said, you know how many times I've heard that from the back of a cop car? I said, you know how many times I've said that from the back of a cop car? And he started laughing. But I knew I was done. I got there, and I went through the detox, and it was hellacious. I still vividly remember it. I believe it's a blessing from God. Like, anyone who's been through that struggle that's so deep that when you actually talk about it, like, you can feel it in your gut.
I feel it sitting next to you.
I remember just shaking and shivering, and I said shit like, I'm going to kill myself, and then they threw me up in, like, the crazy unit. Like, my pad on my bed went from about 4 inches to 1 inch. They took away like all things that you could hang yourself, but I just remember I just laid on the floor and I shook and I shivered and there was puke and it wasn't pretty. But I remember thinking, this is the last time you'll have to do this. This is the last time you'll have to do this. And I got out, and that was November 20th of 2012. And so recently I just celebrated over 6 years sober now.
That's incredible, man.
And that point took me to I only did like 25 days in jail. I had no idea what was going to go on, but I just knew I needed to be there in that moment. I didn't steal the car, but I wasn't even worried about it. I just knew I needed to be away for a minute.
Yeah.
And they released me. The charges had been dropped because I didn't steal the car. Apparently the guy stole it from his mom, so she dropped the charges on him. But I got out and I did something different, like I think that's the message I have for people. I don't know what the gift of desperation for me to do something different in my life was, that the bullshit I was doing wasn't working anymore. I would be lying to you if I told you the drugs didn't work for a long time. They worked, but they stopped working. I couldn't numb who I was. I couldn't bullshit myself that somehow because I had True Religion jeans, those were cool in 2008.
Yeah, they were.
I had True Religion jeans.
Not sure they're cool anymore though.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Jenkos?
Jinkos, yes.
Jinko, Jabos.
Yeah, I wore those too. Yep.
But I would fool myself that I'm going into these crackhead motels and with some really shitty, shady people that were, doing really horrid things that I was okay because I fucking gelled my hair and by this point fitness had gone way out the wayside. So I couldn't use that as my cover up anymore.
Right.
That maybe I didn't have a problem. And I did something different. I got out, and instead of going left, so to speak, I went right. You know, I'm involved in 12-step programs, and still to this day, and I go a lot now because I believe like it's my duty to go give back and be there for the brand new guy that walks in the door of a 12-step meeting, like someone was for me. But I didn't have anywhere to go. I showed up at an AA meeting, and I just did something different. You know what? I asked for help. Some guy was leaving. And he said, "Hey man, do you need a ride home?" I said, the whole meeting had cleared out. It was the day I got out of jail. It was 2 days before Christmas. And I said, so yeah, I do. I don't have anywhere to go though. And he said, "Oh shit, man. Okay, you can stay on my couch, but I swear to God, if you rob me, bad things will happen." I said, "Fair." So this guy I didn't know let me stay on his couch for a few weeks. I got a job waiting tables, and I grinded, and I met the guy who ended up being my old boss, and he had known me from Valley Total Fitness from back in the day, and he said, "Dude, you're too talented to be waiting tables. Like, what's going on?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, you know, I got into drugs, and so now I'm 90 days sober." And he said, "Dude, I'll give you a chance. Come back and work for me." So I went back there, and that was I finally started to find myself, but it was only through a ton of hard work and diligence and dedication, and realized the awareness piece, like it was who I was, and like I had to do something completely different to get a different result.
It's incredible because as we go through that whole journey, you know, we joked before this podcast, like I never know what the fuck we're going to talk about. I never know where it's going to go. I never know like a script. Like I'm about as freewheeling as they get. And as we're going through this, I'm literally hearing the journey of clients. Not even hearing the journey of a drug addict, which is crazy, right? Because I'm literally listening purely to the journey, not the facts of the drugs and the puking and the detox. And I'm literally hearing the thousands and tens of thousands of people that I've helped and listening to their broken journeys, right? And as you're saying it, like you're probably connecting the dots. And you're like, this is literally the journey that every single person goes through, from being broken and being lost to ultimately finding success. And I don't fucking care what walk of life you're in. This is the journey, period. Some people figured out earlier, some people figured out later, some people never figured out. So the degrees of shit that people have to go to is completely different for every single person. Yet the journey is always the same. The solution is always the same. And the solution in that you kind of wrap that up with was you did something different. You took action on something different. Most importantly, you believed in the fact that you, Brad Jensen, had the ability to do something different and to create something different. And that was the power. You reclaimed your power. You became the version of yourself that was always there, that was there at fucking 16 years old when you were reading Muscle and Fitness at Barnes & Noble. You became that version of yourself that could create success. And that's what like so many people have to see inside of that. It's a powerful story, dude. Like super powerful story. And I didn't even know the whole story. Like I'm glad that I just got to hear it. But incredibly powerful, incredibly applicable. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing. And so I want to ask you two final questions before we wrap up. Number one, where can everybody find your crazy ass?
Thanks, man. It's Instagram is the_sober_bodybuilder. And
I feel like Brad needs a new name, so everybody DM him and tell him what you think his new handle should be.
Yeah, because I'm no longer a bodybuilder. I'm still sober.
I mean, like, you look like a bodybuilder. Like, you're still jacked. I mean, you should do more legs, but
dude,
you look like a bodybuilder.
Right.
But your name shouldn't be the sober bodybuilder.
Yeah, so DM me with any suggestions. Facebook, it's just Bradley Jensen, and my company's name is Key Nutrition, so it's keynutrition.com. And
hey, let's give your sister a quick shout out too, because like obviously you guys are part of our business network, and your sister is phenomenal at helping you run the business. So shout out to Michelle.
Oh, hey, 100%. You know what? Michelle and me had a very, very tainted relationship, and through the process of getting sober and working my ass off and getting back to and believing I believed in success, she believed in me along the way, and now she's my COO. She does everything for me at Key Nutrition. She is far underpaid for what she does. Legit, it's a blessing from God. I don't care what God you believe in, that like we have been able to mend this relationship. Everything she does for me, she believed in me getting going and told me like, you're doing this. You can be successful. And through that, I went from 0 clients to 40 to 60 to 80 within a year span. And then when I opened the business, same thing. She said, you can do this.
Yep.
You hustle and grind it out there. Like use that same hustle. And then I should have hired a business coach way sooner, because I believe in coaching.
Everything happens at the right time.
But when I did,
because you might have ended up with the douchebags.
Yeah, right.
We'll be recording that video after this.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to see the parody of a mastermind, it's getting recorded right after this.
But yeah, a big shout out to Michelle, and shout out to you, all of you guys, for encouraging me to tell my story, because today my life looks a lot different. I have success. I own a home. I have all these things. I'm married. I've got a great life. And I was kind of hiding behind the fact that like what I had been through, and it was you who encouraged me, like, you got to tell that story.
Yeah,
I would never, my name is the Sober Bodybuilder, so there's obviously some connotation there, but I would never talk about how bad it was, because maybe if you knew I was a heroin addict, that you wouldn't think I'm worth the money I charge now.
Sure.
And, nobody gives a fuck. And like, because of that, I'm able to deploy so much more empathy to my clients, because I get it. And I get that sometimes they've got to hit their rock bottom before they're willing to do something different. Before they're willing to stop looking for the quick fix.
It's a powerful statement, because most people want to suppress the shit they've been through, when in reality you should be using the shit you've been through. But okay, so final question. This is the ALLiN Podcast, and you know this question's coming. Everybody knows it's coming. Create success. You need to go all in on something. What is that one thing?
I'm trying to do something different, because
a mastermind, of course.
Yeah.
Go all in on a mastermind.
All in on a mastermind. For me, I had to go all in on a morning routine and developing a relationship with something greater in myself. It's one of the core principles of AA, which I'm so in love with today, is just turning your life over to like whatever God you believe in. It could be the star of the universe, but through creating a really strict morning routine, and realizing that I'm not God, and like whatever it is out there. And the most freeing thing for me is people ask me, like, I don't have to know what I'm reaching out to. I just know that something's got my back. And a morning routine was established in me right when I got sober, and it's one of the core pieces for me that led me to this. I could tell you go in all in on yourself, but for me, how I found myself was through work, and that work involved a morning routine that, man, when I do it, I show up better. And when I show up better for you, when I show up better, use rhetorical, but like I show up better for me. And I just, that would be it. Like, find a morning routine that works for you, and go all in on that, because that's through that work and that consistency of doing it day after day after day is where I found self-belief.
Love it. I love it. Well, dude, I appreciate your vulnerability. I mean, I appreciate you as a person. I appreciate you as a friend. Like, we've built a really good friendship since, you and I started working together. And so I appreciate you bringing that to the podcast. I appreciate you sharing the message. And honestly, man, as somebody that genuinely cares about the future of this space, like, I appreciate the value you're bringing to the space as a practitioner. Because obviously you and your staff are incredibly knowledgeable. You're creating transformations day in, day out. Like, you guys are helping a lot of people. And you're doing it the right way. It's not some bullshit, scammy, sleazy way. And it's backed with the right why. So, from me to you, dude, I just genuinely appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. If I could say one last thing.
Absolutely.
Hey, I started listening to Jason a year ago, and I heard his talk at Google, and it fucking resonated with me. And I said, God, it'd be cool to kind of link up with a guy like that. But I didn't act on it. And one night I was sitting in bed about 6 months ago, and it hit my stomach, a gut pain. I said, you got to do something different to get a different result. I hit that prop. I had built some success in the business. So I reached out, and I went to your NCI course. I went to your one-day mastermind. I just knew that I had to do something different to get this result was achieved. And I never would have envisioned that 6 months after having that pit in my stomach and taking fucking action, that I'd be sitting in South Beach on a couch with you, doing a podcast of the podcast I listened to every fucking day since March. But it's all because I took action.
100%.
And so I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, dude.
So
and
thank you.
yeah, I mean, guys, re-listen to this episode, take notes, because the journey is what you have to understand. Super powerful, super deep, super emotional, but start paying attention to the journey because there's a lot of relation to you, and I think you guys will walk away with this with a lot. So we're gonna go make a really funny video. You should check it out somewhere on social media or YouTube, and we will talk to you next week.